Hi! Isang maganda at mapayapang araw. I'm Pia Wurtzbach, and if you're following our Holding Space Voices of Hope series, this is our 5th episode, and we will be talking about abuses in relationships. But before that, I welcome you all to our program na handog sa atin ng volunteers ng Flourish by Love Yourself at in partnership with Mental Health PH. Holding Space, Voices of Hope is a program where we give a face to different issues affecting people's mental wellness while encouraging everyone to reach out to the people that they trust for support. Tulad ng mga naunang episodes, ang Holding Space ay nagbibigay ng storya ng inspirasyon. Ito ay magpapatotoo na may mga taong handang tumulong at sumuporta sa atin physically, mentally, and emotionally para malampasan ang mga pinagdadaanan natin sa buhay. And kung sa last episode, we have JM De Guzman on coping with addiction, today naman for our 5th episode, as mentioned earlier, we will be talking about abusive relationships. As a woman, I stand for fellow women who were abused because of their gender. And I'm thankful that Love Yourself also supports women empowerment with its Transcend by Love Yourself program. In 2020, the Philippine Statistics Authority observed that there is an increase of reported cases of violence against women, and these abuses include physical injuries, acts of lasciviousness, and rape. And these abuses are common in domestic violence or partner-induced harm. And having to go through such pain is really, really difficult. It's not just the physical pain that scars a person, but the mental and emotional battles that one must go through. Today, we invited a brave young woman who is willing to share her story in overcoming this phase in her life. Initially, she asked our team not to disclose her true identity, so we respected that. But because she gained courage to stand up for other women, she chose to reveal herself to be a face of hope for women or people who are going through an abusive relationship. Hi Asha, kumusta ka na? What's been keeping you busy? And pakilala ka sa mga viewers natin.
Hi Pia! Thank you so much for inviting me, and hi everyone! My name is Asha Gutierrez. I am a creative writer, and I am an advocate and an HIV counselor for Love Yourself Philippines.
You're also an aspiring beauty queen, right?
Yes, I am. I am competing for Miss World Philippines 2021.
Good luck. I'll be cheering for you and congratulations in advance. Asha, I'm so happy that you've come to share your story. I know, nung una gusto mo munang i-hidden muna natin yung identity mo sa pagkwento mo dito. Pero you decided na you'll share your story, your experience yourself. Please share with us what happened.
I guess I'll start with when you mentioned that at first I didn't want to give my identity. I guess the reason was because when something happened to you that's vulnerable or traumatic, you kind of want to hide yourself.
Mm-hmm.
But naisip ko kasi na for every woman na hindi nag-speak out, I want to show them that it's okay. That as women, we have a voice and that we can tell our story because we deserve to be treated the way we should be treated.
Asha, is this the first time you're talking about this in public? I mean, like in an interview?
This is my first time, so I'm a bit nervous actually.
Okay, well, I'll try my best to take care of you during this episode.
Thank you.
So, yes, I do want to ask you, kasi wala akong alam pa sa kwento na to. Please share with us your story.
Actually, my first experience in relationship abuse was when I was 19 years old. So, it's actually a few years back because I'm already 26 years old. And when I got this, it was with my first boyfriend. So at first, it was actually good. We were dating for 2 months. You know, the usual panliligaw, yung, start with text, calling, going out on date. But when I decided to be his girlfriend and we started to be together, getting to know families from both sides, medyo nag-change yung course ng behavior niya because I felt that he was a bit monitoring me already, na it was like based on his anxiety, na he would ask me, where are you? If it's like around 6 p.m. and I would tell him, oh, I'm not home, I'm training, or I'm still at the library because I was still a college student at the time, or I'm out with my friends. He would be mad to the point that he'll drop the call on the instant that I say that I'm out, and he won't talk to me for 3 days or even for like 3 weeks. And then I'm like, what happened?
Yeah. I understand. I understand how that can be so confusing if this is coming from a person that you love, And this was also your first relationship. So at what point did you realize na, wait a minute, parang hindi to normal in a relationship?
Well, of course, it was, syempre I was so anxious, no? So, hindi kayo mag-uusap. Then when I tried to call him up, he's gonna answer me and say, you know what you did. And he was already implying that I was cheating on him, even when I'm not. So it became like a back and forth tandem to the point that I would not go out anymore.
So just for our viewers, no, because when you say abusive, there's so many types of abuse. But this sounds like psychological abuse, right?
Yes, because in the aspects of physical or sexual abuse, it's not like he hurt me physically, or it's not like he would sexually abuse me, because it was consensual. We were partners. He was my boyfriend and I was his girlfriend. It's more on psychological abuse, because it was like he was training me to be something that I should not be. He was telling me that if I do something that makes him uncomfortable, that he will withdraw. And that's when you become anxious, you become depressed, and then you start doubting yourself to the point na parang gaslighting na yung nangyayari.
Okay, now that you mentioned gaslighting, this is, even for me, Asha, this is a new word. Recently, at I think this year ko lang, na-encounter yung word na gaslighting. How would you define gaslighting?
I guess gaslighting is a way of turning someone's reality into something that's not true. As for example, I will say that I am out with my friends tonight. I will be back home soon. He will turn it in a way, like gaslighting, in a way na he will say, no, you're not out with your friends right now. You're lying. You're cheating right now. You're with someone else.
Okay. And then how would that make you? Do you believe it? Do you start believing that you are doing something wrong even though you're not?
The thing is, you won't really believe that you're with someone, because basically you're not. But you're trained in a way that you feel like your reality is wrong. That your reality is not something that you should be doing, whether it's something for your goals, if I'm outside because I'm training for my sport, or I'm with my mentors trying to work, or I'm with my friends, you know. You make it to the point that your reality is wrong and you should just be the way he wants you to be.
Wow, biglang nagpa-flashback sa akin yung mga past relationships ko where ngayon, now that I know the definition of gaslighting, now I can't help but go back and think, wait a minute, that thing that happened to me before, gaslighting ba yun? Was that a form of gaslighting? And sometimes kasi in relationships, mahal mo yung tao, mahal yung isa't isa. It's masked by that love and that, you know, that honeymoon phase, lalo na pagka bago pa lang kayo.
The relationship becomes toxic when it's crossing some boundaries away. Even if we are in a relationship, we should still maintain our individuality. So, but when you start losing yourself, when you feel that you don't have your own identity anymore, and when you are violated physically and emotionally, the relationship might be toxic already. Asha disclosed that the relationship that she had when she was 19 affected her self-worth. It took her time to gain empowerment so she can break free from that relationship and realize the treatment that she deserved. I want to express actually my respect to Asha for being courageous in sharing her story, knowing that a lot of people might learn from her experience. So when you feel that your partner holds you back, you lack independence, and your self-esteem is declining, the relationship might not be healthy already. While most reported cases of abuse, especially in romantic relationship, are women, we also have to recognize that men can also suffer from toxic and abusive relationships. So this is to inform everyone, both men and women, that you don't have to be afraid to come forward and seek help when you have experienced the negative effects of being in abusive relationships. So there's actually nothing wrong whether you're a woman or a man. It doesn't make you less of a man or a woman when you seek help for problems with abusive relationships.
So you started seeing this after a couple of months. Who did you first run to when you realized that this had to stop?
Well, actually, because I'm a writer and I love to read, ang una kong pinuntahan is the library. Chinek ko yung relationship coupling, relationship abuse. So I went to the section na relationship and counseling, and then I started reading on like what couples usually fight about, what abuse is. Because at that point, I was very much in love, so I wasn't ready to tell my sister or my mother or my best friends, because you know how they are, like, iwan mo na yan! Huwag mo na yan mahalin! Ano ka ba? Napapagod ka na! Iwan mo na! There's a certain point that when you're in a relationship and you know that there is something wrong, and yet at the same time you don't want to let go yet.
Kasi mahal mo yung tao, and of course you want to give them the benefit of the doubt and you want to give them a second chance. Now it's a little surprising to me that ang una mong pinuntahan ay mga libro at yung library instead of people.
Well, actually naman, after 2 weeks naman kasi I read in one of the books, try counseling. Going to a person who does not know both of you personally would be a great help. So, what we did, and actually, he does listen rin naman because he also admits to me that he tends to be anxious to the point of him losing ground na parang he becomes abusive. So, we decided to do therapy.
Okay.
We decided to do couples therapy, and the person was not even in the Philippines. It was an online counseling from New York.
Wow, so this is a new development sa story because I don't know why, but for some reason I expected that the advice that you got from the books at, nakuha mo yung strength mo doon to end the relationship, but you guys decided na you will both do couples therapy or counseling to try to fix the situation. So, I guess my next question is, did he admit to himself that there was something wrong?
Well, in a way, he did.
Oh, okay.
But the problem in certain psychological abusive relationships is there are usually triggers that when it happens to them, they cannot help but go back to their ways in which they become abusive. So they can say one day, I'm so sorry, actually I was wrong. I'll admit that I'm wrong. Even to the point that they will love bomb you. So love bomb kasi yung parang babawi ako sa kapalpakan ko. I will make a way to amend my wrongs. So he would be more romantic, he would give me gifts, or he would be more malambing. And in a way, I would like, maybe we can try another. We can try it again, Because after all, we are sometimes hopeless romantics to the point that we believe that love has no boundaries. So laban lang natin to, subukan ulit natin. But to the point na minsan magiging drain ka na, and that's when you should really stop and let go of the person.
So, nag-couples therapy kayo together, which gives me the impression or the idea that he was aware that he made mistakes.
Yes, it was more on like, okay, I'll go to couples therapy with you because I don't want to lose you. It was in a way na it was still gaslighting because he would say na, this is still wrong, going to couples therapy. We don't need therapy because I'm just a flawed person. I just made a mistake. And you also made a mistake for making me lose my anger for not making me feel secured or by going out. But anyways, since I love you, I will go to therapy with you and I don't want to lose you. So in a way, parang nagko-compensate pa rin siya na mali pa rin yung us trying to fix the abusive part of the relationship. If I say that I'm out late, or not late, but 6 p.m. onwards, and then he would not talk to me for 3 days or 3 weeks, and if I call him, he's going to say, you know what you did, I don't need to apologize. You hurt me so much. I can't believe what you put me through. So it was more on like me needing to apologize, but in his own way, the way he would make amends to it by not even apologizing is by love bombing me, by suddenly like being extra romantic out of nowhere to the point na medyo weird na.
Okay, so, wow, now that you've mentioned this again, I'm suddenly starting to backtrack and think, has this ever happened to me before? And I'm sure our viewers are doing the same thing.
So there's physical abuse, emotional abuse, isolating a person, there's gaslighting and love bombing, which were mentioned by Asha as well, something that she has experienced in her previous relationship. So what's gaslighting? We also frequently see this in social media. So gaslighting is actually manipulating and turning of events to present oneself in the best light possible and to turn the blame to the other person. While love bombing is doing excessive gestures to influence the person to do one's end goal. It can be observed in excessive demonstration of love and affection. So some specific examples can be too much compliment, or the compliment is given too early, or saying what you want to hear, and grand gestures such as, buying you super expensive things. But of course, it doesn't mean naman na when you observe one of these gestures, it's like an automatic red flag already. You have to look at the relationship as a whole. So these forms of abuse can have short-term and long-term impact on our mental health. So it can make people doubt their self, damage their self-worth and self-esteem, and can make them afraid to commit in future romantic relationships. Physical and emotional abuse might also exist in relationship with your parents or even friendships. For any kind of relationship, it's actually healthy for you to have boundaries, even with your parents and even with your friends.
What was the process like? How did you find the strength to do something about it?
I guess having the therapy
Yes, that
also helped at this point. It helped me in a way that having a psychologist to tell me that I should have my boundaries, that no matter how much you love the person, she would tell me, even if it's your parent, even if it's your sibling, your best friend, or most importantly, because this is what's happening to you, your romantic partner, you need to draw a line in which he should not treat you in a certain way, especially when you feel uncomfortable already.
how do you get out of a situation like that? Because love mo yung tao, and I'm sure there's a feeling na parang na-trap ka. Kasi nakondisyon ka, tas feeling mo kailangan mo siya. How do you let go from that?
Of course, it's a process, no? Hindi naman once na na-feel mo na abusive yung partner mo, the next day iwan mo na siya.
Oo.
Kasi parang in a way, sasabihin natin, tao tayo, impossible to, hopeless romantic tayo, mamahalin natin to
Oo.
hanggang dulo, di ba? So, it's more on the understanding that there is such a difference between unconditional love and unhealthy relationships. Kasi they're not the same. Yun ang nagiging problem yung parang feeling natin, pag we unconditionally love someone, that they have a right to treat us unhealthily na. That's when you start to realize na, hey, I can grow. It's okay to fail in a relationship, to let go, as long as you find your own true self, na kaya mo na maging free, na hindi mo feeling na failure ka, because you started to let go of an unhealthy relationship. It's really a process, but mas important talaga yung there's a person by your side na support system and understands how you can process through it properly.
Pero looking back now, what do you think could have made things easier for you?
What could have made things easier for me at that point was, of course, knowing that I should have my own boundaries. Having boundaries is saying, what you did was wrong, and I won't let you do that to me again. What you did to me was wrong, and I have a right to let you go. Having boundaries is knowing that at first, you need to put yourself first, not because you're selfish, but because you need to be treated right.
These are things you realize on your own?
Of course, like maybe reading and meditating, and of course having people na hindi toxic. It's always the people that you trust the most. The people that you know will take your side, not because they're being biased. Hindi naman dahil na, oh, I'm taking your side because mahal kita, but they're taking your side because they know that you should be treated well, and that everyone else should be treated well in that matter.
So if saving the relationship is still an option, you can try to do it. Talk to your partner. You can explore couples counseling or family therapy if both of you are willing to do it. Asha shared something about it. If leaving is the only option, then you don't have to do it alone. You can inform your family so they can help and protect you, especially if you have an abusive or unstable partner. If ending the relationship is inevitable, work on improving yourself. Give yourself the space to understand how the relationship affected you, so you can take your time to heal. You don't have to be okay right away. In some cases, seeking professional help can also be beneficial. In fact, Asha shared that she had several counseling sessions. So for problems in relationship, social support is really important. While some people prefer to deal with their problems on their own, there's also nothing wrong with opening up to friends and family and giving them the opportunity to help. You can actually be explicit with the kind of support that you need. So your family and friends can offer advice, but they can also just give you the space to express your emotions without being judged. So they can offer not only emotional support, but practical support as well. So if you need financial help, a place to stay, or people who would keep you safe, they might be able to provide these for you. So you can help in any way you can, but please be sensitive to the situation. It's easy to say na you can just leave the person, but of course there are other factors to consider. The last thing that you want to do is to be dismissive of their experiences. So start by providing options. You can educate the person that there are options in dealing with toxic relationships. So you may share resources, that there are actually a lot of organizations who are willing to help. There are actually organizations in the Philippines who are providing help to people who have experienced or are in abusive relationships. So just go to the internet and search for information so you can contact them on how you can seek their help. The abuse might happen common and a lot of people might experience it without actually reporting. But the good thing is that there are things that we can do to create a safer environment to protect ourselves and our loved ones. So educating people is really important. This can begin at home. So that's why parents should be comfortable talking about relationship concerns with their kids. They can go to their parents to ask for advice for relationship, especially romantic relationship concerns. Proper setting of expectations can help. So communicating in the early stages of the relationships and continue the communication even in long-term relationships. It's also important to create boundaries and be intentional and consistent in honoring your boundaries. So do not allow people to resist your boundaries. It's important to learn how to say no, because being in a relationship does not automatically mean that you have to say yes to all the requests of your partner. We also need to create safe spaces where people won't be afraid to express what they feel and seek help if necessary. For those of you who are in abusive relationship or who just got out of abusive relationship, you may want to continue working on your self-esteem. Even if you are in a relationship, you still need to maintain your individuality. If your relationships with other people are undermining your romantic relationships, that's when you need to set clear boundaries. So what are the things that are not acceptable to both of you as a couple? Kailangan clear, kailangan intentional, and you have to be consistent in observing those boundaries. To avoid experiencing being abused or your relationship being affected by your relationships with other people.
And it's so good that you're able to share your experience and your stories, and that nahanap mo yung strength to do that, because hindi madali parang especially kung mahal mo yung tao, tas parang nagpa-promise naman siya, gumagawa siya ng ways para makabawi, binibigyan mo ng second chance, and syempre at 19 iisipin natin na ito na yung love of my life, hindi ko na dapat pakawalan to, ganyan. I'm sure so many people out there, kahit hindi women, basta in a relationship, will be able to relate to you and to what you've shared. Now, what would your advice be for anybody who's going through a similar situation?
Pag alam mo na at nararamdaman mo na hindi ka na nag-grow, na hindi mo na nabibigay yung freedom na kailangan mo para maging kang healthy individual, yung pag parang kinokontrol ka na nila na pag hindi mo to ginawa, hindi na kita mamahalin, then that's when you have to understand and realize na it's abusive. You can take back your power by saying, I'm not happy anymore, let's end it. And there's nothing wrong with that. Hindi naman mali na mag-give up on something that's not making you grow anymore.
So any last bit of advice that you want to share with our viewers today?
Well, Pia, of course, maybe the last piece of advice that I would like to share to everyone who's watching right now is to learn how to love yourself first. And that's the only way that you can also teach others to love other people and to learn how to treat others properly.
I love that. And there you go from our future beauty queen.
Thank you, Queen Pia.
Thank you, Asha.
Salamat.
Ang kwento ni Asha hindi na bago sa ating lipunan. But because we keep on disregarding many abuses that were happening to women, we continue to hear women suffer, especially to people they believe can only share love to them, but only to find out otherwise. Bago natin i-end ang episode na to, I'd like to thank Flourish by Love Yourself and Mental Health PH for making another wonderful episode possible. Thank you also to our production house, the Alright Studios, for their craftsmanship in putting together these documentaries. Muli po, ako po si Pia Wurtzbach, and we will be right here in Holding Space, and together we will listen to the voices of hope. See you in our next episode. Bye!